All right. Welcome everybody to episode 36 of the Content Lab podcast. Today we have Frank Cruze. Frank is a videographer, photographer, filmmaker, YouTuber. We'll talk about his YouTube that not too many people YouTube channel not too many people know about, but you'll be surprised. Frank, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
I always love having my friends on the pod. I tried to when I first got started, I had Scott episode one, and then I think it was like Bennett like right after. I was like, I gotta start like having people that I really don't know, and then spread my friends out a little more. But yeah, Frank and I are really good friends. We've worked a lot together in the past. So I'm excited about this episode.
Yeah, and you're so busy. It's the only time I get to talk to you.
No way. All right, Frankie. So yeah, again, thanks for being here. We have Corbin in the chat already. And what's up, dudes? Let's start talking about. I mean, even like you and I were good friends, but still don't know exactly like how you got involved into the media world, because as
Yeah.
we put in the description, you were law enforcement.
Mhm.
You're a retired law enforcement. So if we can talk about that, just how many years you were in the in the job when you retired and when you bumped into photography and videography.
Okay. Yeah. So this was something. Photo and video stuff is something I wanted to do since high school. Back then it wasn't digital because I'm old, but it it's something I wanted to do then. But I just, it was tough to get into any of the film schools and all that stuff back then. So I went to college, and like a lot of people do in college, I enjoyed myself too much and ended up not being successful there. So I came back and started working in law enforcement, which I enjoyed. It was another thing that I was always interested in. So I did that. Ended up sticking around doing that for 26 years. But I always kind of had a passion and did, photography on the side. And like when I was on the SWAT team, I would always make little videos, bring stuff to training. And like, even if it was just a GoPro and stuff, it was always something that I was interested in. So when I retired in 2019 officially from law enforcement, I really went, started taking pictures at my affiliate that I went to just for like their Saturday classes and stuff for their social media. And just it kind of picked up from there.
Yeah, and I mean, was it YouTube like the first thing that kind of like started like making you get more involved into just the technical aspect of the whole filmmaking scene?
Yeah, that's good. So when before I probably a year or so before I retired, I knew this was something I wanted to pursue as sort of a second career. And so I started doing research because technology had changed a lot and I hadn't always kept up with things. So I was watching a lot of YouTube content, learning about the different cameras and the latest tech on everything. And one of the things that I found frustrating was I noticed a lot of YouTube channels, especially with like gear reviews and stuff. Clearly, they're being paid, or they may not necessarily be being paid, but they're somewhat biased because they're getting free stuff sent to them, and they use affiliate links and everything like that to kind of drive you to buy stuff. So that was just something that kind of inspired me. I'm like, well, I'm trying to learn to use these cameras. I'm watching all this content. Why don't I start making videos on a YouTube channel, kind of talking about the different gear
Yeah,
and
yeah,
doing it from like the stuff that I'm buying with my own money, and I have no skin in the game. If I buy something and it's a fail, I just tell people this isn't very good.
yeah. Now, for people that are listening, Frank had a well, he still has a YouTube channel. He's not as active as he used to. It started as being called the Tactical Traveler, right?
Yeah,
And and you did pretty well. And I mean, you have some videos with tens of thousands of views, right? Like I don't know if do you reach any videos with 100,000 views?
no, I don't think so. I never really did it for that. I actually so one of my initial reasons for doing it was just to get more comfortable on camera and learn to use the gear.
Yeah,
So to do that, like I could walk around. I started like just filming my dogs and stuff in the backyard, but that just got really boring. So that
yeah,
was my purpose for the channel. And then I never really did it with an intent to try and grow an audience or do anything. It was just
yeah,
kind of for me to learn to use gear.
yeah. But it's a good channel. I've watched a bunch of the videos, and it's funny that sometimes people look at you like people on the like in our media world,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Wait, you're the guy from YouTube, like BC Brendan."
Yeah, he's did that. He's like, I didn't know that was you.
Yeah,
And
yeah, and I mean, you have really good reviews. I've bought stuff just because I like watch the video and I'm like, doing research, bump into your video, and yeah, it's good stuff. And
Eh,
one of the things that kind of like puts you away from the competition, like one of the things that makes you, like one notch ahead of somebody that does similar stuff on us, is that you're really good at the technical stuff. Like, everything about a camera. Like, I feel like I'm a pretty technical shooter too, but when it comes to like knowing everything about a camera, or like, the science behind everything, you are the guy when it comes to like when I have a question, you're on speed dial. Um
yeah.
what 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 interests you into being, that technical when it comes to cameras, shooting,
I
lighting?
don't.
You're really good at like pretty much everything when it comes to filmmaking.
Yeah, I mean, part of that's just I guess I'm kind of like a little tech nerd about stuff. I just enjoy that aspect of it. And for me, I think that's kind of some of my time in law enforcement when I was on the SWAT team. It was always so important, like that you really knew and understood your equipment, like how to operate it, how like blindfolded to do stuff. And I kind of feel that that's sort of translated to me with like my equipment for shooting video or photos. I really want to know like how the gear works, why it works that way, and in certain situations, how can I adapt to get what I want, the final result. That's why it's so important to me, the technical stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you've been a part of like higher end production stuff, and um before jumping full time into Mayhem, you were doing that a lot too, right? Like when you were in Tampa,
Yeah,
you were
I
doing.
was lucky. I got to work with some really good guys in Tampa uh, that I learned a lot from, especially with lighting and stuff. My buddy Rob, he's amazing.
Did you guys just win a Tele Award not too long ago?
Yeah, I did a collaboration with Rob and there's a guy DJ from Haji Studios, and Rob is Animus Visual. But I learned a lot from those guys. They're like super creative and like geniuses with the lighting, and I've learned a lot from those guys. And we got a Telly Award for some work we did for the New York State School Nutrition Association.
That's
We
cool.
did some promotional videos for them.
Yeah, what's something you've noticed working on higher end production, uh I mean, videos, that you had no idea when you, because you kind of went from doing like your own thing into working on that, and then back to almost doing like your own thing. What's like something you've noticed that it's like a lot different that you were not expecting?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot slower paced, especially on like narrative things or even stuff that it's more planned out. Everything is pre-planned on those higher end production stuff, and I've never done any of those things that are like, oh, everyone talks about a one man band or run and gun. It's way more planned out and way more set up, and it's an army of people
Mm.
behind things. There's
You have one person for each task.
Yeah, and you can really focus on that task and you get it right. Because a lot of times, if you have talent or someone in there, you don't have time to keep bringing them back. It costs money, so everything's got to be done correctly the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, I've I've always been, it's always interested me into getting more into the like the filmmaking world, into higher end productions, but at the same time, I don't know, there is something that like, I feel like you have to be very passionate about being a part of like a big team, a big group of people, and just doing, like, as you said, like slower paced projects, because some of those projects can take months, even, like close to a year if you're working on
Yeah,
documentaries and stuff like that.
yeah, it's definitely much slower paced and it's different. I mean, it's not as exciting and glamorous or as fast paced as like when we're covering a competition.
Yeah,
Very slow, a lot of downtime, and things aren't always done in order. So
absolutely.
even
Yeah.
like I've been on some of those that I'm just, hired as a freelance to operate a camera or be grip and electrical or lighting. And I don't even know the story or what's going on. I just set up and this little thing will happen and they're like, all right, let's do it again. But I don't
Yeah.
even know what we're doing.
Yeah, sometimes like they start recording the beginning of the film, and then the last scene it's on the same setup, so they,
Right.
and even the like as you said, like most people on the crew, they have no idea like when is that gonna be on the like in the whole story, when that's
Right.
gonna happen. So yeah, that's super interesting. And also the way, again, kind of getting out of topic here, but I love seeing like the higher end production, like movies and stuff like that, how they shoot sometimes the scene, but that person's not even like the person that's on the movie. It's not even there. Like the person they're talking to, it's not even there. Um,
Right.
fuck, I don't even know how to explain it, but
I know what you're talking about.
I was listening to a podcast not too long ago that the guy he had he had a 20-second part on at the what's it called? Okay, Stranger Things, the TV
Hmm.
show, and they were talking about like, hey, how was your experience? You know, being a part of the cast. You know, it was only 20 seconds of an episode, but it was still kind of like a big deal. And he said that the funniest part is that the the people he was talking to, which was the main cast, they were not even there when they recorded that part. It
Right.
was like it was pointing at him, but when they switched the camera, it was back to the main cast. But they weren't two complete. Like it was shot two complete different days. They were not even there with him.
Yeah.
Like that's interesting. But I guess
Yeah.
you have to be as efficient as you can whenever you have the cast with you.
Yeah. It definitely makes you appreciate how talented a lot of the actors are
Mm.
because they're acting. And I've done that before. I remember there was a particular little short film we did,
Without much
and
context behind it, just acting.
yeah, there was a like a scene in a booth at a restaurant, and so you're shooting like over the shoulder or whatever of each person. So the the close up of you talking and then the close up of me talking, but they weren't even in there together.
Yep. Yep.
So you'd sit there and there's just like a PA reading the lines of one actor and the camera's on the other actor who's now acting back at the camera. And then when they edit that together, you'd never know that they weren't even in the room together.
Exactly. It kind of has messed up some films for me now because every time I watch movies now, I look for those stuff. Like if the person's arm was here and then they switch to a different angle, you see the arm is like down. I'm like, ah, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
I look at all this stuff now and the music too, which is like it's very interesting once you start getting more into filmmaking music and start hearing like the all the sound effects they use, the
Yeah.
music at like how that can control the scene, like make you feel like you some level of excitement, sad, depending on the music, dude. It's incredible. um but yeah, let's talk more about you.
Okay.
How when do you when do you realize like I'm good at what I do and I can do this more full time? Because again, you it's something you wanted to do, but there was always a point that you were like, like I'm just getting started. I don't know if I can do it full time.
Well, I still don't think I'm good at it. And I feel like I've never shot a
You
video or a
always
good
say that.
photo. It's how I feel. Like I'm always a perfectionist. I've never actually achieved anything, but that's a second thing. But uh, or that's a different topic. But anyways, so what you're saying is, I just kind of got into it. I remember like one of the first things, some of the people that really helped me in the beginning, besides you, and probably the first people that I met was like Anthony Tom. I don't know if he's been on here with you before, but if he hasn't, that would be a riot.
Yeah.
But Anthony Tom and like Ty Randall were a couple of the guys I met right in the beginning. And I remember specifically something. I didn't have a lot of confidence, and I was shooting a competition in Daytona with Anthony. It was the first week I'd met him, and I was like, "Oh, people are asking me to do this or that, but I don't know if I can do it. I don't want to tell them yes." And he's like, "Dude," he's like, "Bro, Anthony."
Typical Anthony.
Yeah, he's like, "Bro, whatever anybody asks you to do, just say yeah, I can do that." He goes, "Then call me and we'll figure out how to do it." He's like, "Just say yes to everything." And that helped me a lot. Guys like that. And then Ty was so helpful with me with other things, with photos and advice. To this day, I still talk to Ty Randall a
Yeah.
lot. Um, those were things that helped me. And just in general, I've always been somebody to try stuff. Sometimes a little late in life, but like that's sort of a motto of mine. I think I've told you that before. Like
Yeah.
I feel like it's never too late to do anything. Don't worry about your age or whatever. Like I didn't start CrossFit even till I was 38 and I was 300 pounds, and then probably I lost, weight and did all that stuff. And then at 41, I tried out and got on the SWAT team, and everybody's like, no way, that guy that was 300 pounds on the SWAT team.
Yeah.
And so when I retired, I was, almost 50, started doing this. And I was like, hey, I can do it with everybody. Now, I'm here at CrossFit Mayhem working with these guys, and I'm so grateful for all the opportunities I've had.
Yeah. I love that because it's a good reminder for everybody, even for me. Sometimes I'm 29 right now and I'm turning 30 this year, and sometimes like I'm talking to some people. I don't know. Some people ask me questions on Instagram on the DMs, and they're like, "Oh, 19 years old. I just got into, I just finished high school. I'm getting into filmmaking, photography, blah blah. I wanna like, can you give me some advice? And I'm thinking, I'm like, gosh, I wish I would have started when I was
Yeah.
19 that early, because I didn't. 2018, so that's 3 5. Um, I was like 24, something
Mhm.
like that, when I actually like dived into. Oh, look at Anthony, he's in the chat.
That's my boy.
Yeah. Um, I wasn't like 24 until I started, and sometimes I think I'm like, it was kind of late, and then I see people like you're talking about that you were a law enforcement for, what did you say, 24 years,
26.
26 years,
Mhm.
and now you're doing this full time. You have a good career. You've made you have a very good reputation in the industry, and as you said, like, it's never too late, right? Like,
Oh,
if you have already your career, and then you're like, hey, I want to do something new. I want to do something I wanted to my whole life. And I mean, you're crushing it too. I find it awesome that everybody you work with over there, they're all like, in their 20, 23, 25,
yeah.
and they respect you a lot, and they appreciate you being there with them, and they learn from you as much as you learn from them. But yeah, dude, I'm already putting the time here, 14 minutes. I'm gonna clip that that little part that you said, because it's really cool.
Yeah.
Talking back to what we're talking about, Anthony. Anthony also helped me a lot, starting off. I always, even though he uses Nikon, I always
Yeah.
loved his photography and him as a person. And one of the things that I feel that he helps you a lot to get all these opportunities is who you are as a person.
Yeah.
Because like, we all know that you have really good technical abilities, you're a good shooter. Uh, but when it comes to working with you, you're probably one of the most, I don't know, I just feel like really comfortable working with you and confident that you're gonna get it done, right? And I know you've told me in the past, it's like also your background in, in the SWAT teams and in the as a law enforcement. But if you can expand a little more about that, like, you are one of the guys that, do you never get tired? It's like, it's different. It's like you're built different. We can shoot for 10 hours, 8 hours a day, and you're the one that's like, yep, no, I'm good. Like, and
Well,
I mean, being on
maybe
the floor with
it's
people are like 22, and you're still more energized than them.
maybe it's my generation. You guys are kind of soft, but but no, I just, I always try. That's something that, like, I always try and be like dependable. That's like a way, like, I want people to remember that, like, I was a hardworking guy that was dependable, and you could count on me. If you give me something to do, you don't have to like check on it. It's like it'll be done. You know,
Yeah.
and that's just like kind of like a personal thing. That probably goes back to my parents have instilled like good work ethic in me. Anything I do, anywhere I work, I try and treat it like it's mine. And that's, I think I've talked to you about that before when we do events. You know, I put myself in the position of the person who's running the event or running the media team. And if I was them, I'd want everyone to work for me, and give their best. And I always just treat everything like I own it. Like, I try and take ownership of whatever I do, and do things that way. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah,
that's
no,
real important.
absolutely. And I can see it too, dude. Like, I mean, when people ask me, I that's my answer all the time. I'm like, it really doesn't matter how good you are at the job. Like, you have to have some level of like how good you have to be, right? Like, you have to be on that base that people are comfortable hiring you. But the most important thing is just being good to work with. That's
Mhm.
what's gonna get you the next opportunity, and the word of mouth. Like, hey, Frank, dude, you need somebody, hire Frank,
Yeah.
right? Because it just, I mean, there's really no secret. But if somebody asks me, hey, what's the secret to get opportunities? It just be somebody that people see, and they, right away, oh, Frank is a really hard worker. He's really good at what he's doing, at what he does. But more than anything, he's really nice. He's a good team worker, and he works hard. Those are the things that are gonna get you the next opportunity. And in fact, like, when Scott was kind of like going back to what you do now, you're full time at Crossfit Mayhem.
Mhm.
Um, but I think it was last year, Scott called me and he's like, hey, like if you know of anybody that can help us at the games, I need somebody that's, good videographer. Dude, right away, first person, Frank. And the reason why, yes, you're really good at technical, we already talked about this. You're
Right.
really good at knowing your camera. But I knew right away the games are long days that require somebody that's gonna be not soft, and that's somebody that's gonna have to follow instructions because you're working with a big team, and sometimes you have to be in one spot, maybe 4 hours just standing there, right? And I literally told Scott, and he can probably go back and tell you exactly the same thing. I told him, dude, look no for like Frank is your guy. If you tell him if it's raining and you tell him, hey Frank, I need perfect exposure on that corner. It's raining and you have to stay there for 5 hours. Frank will say, yep, got it, and you will do it. And it's true, dude. Like, you're one of those that you never like kick back with like, oh, I don't want to do that. Like, um, and I've gotten really good feedback from you, obviously, but that's different. It's not like you tell
Mhm.
me you don't want to do it, but it's more like, hey, we could do this instead. And again, all that together is what makes you a somebody that people can trust and work with in a professional way. And I'm not surprised you've gotten all these opportunities in the past 2 years. And I think it's because you know hard work and just being a good person.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it. That's one of the things I try to do, and I think that comes from my little bit of experience I've had with those narrative things. Like we talked about, everybody has a job, and if I could give, like, I don't know if say giving advice, but one thing I've noticed that I see a lot of people doing, especially in like CrossFit stuff, is everybody's trying to get, like, I don't know, for example, like the finish line. Everyone wants to get that shot. Well, when you're part of a team, and this is one of the things I liked about working with Mayhem, is like they're selfless. Everyone doesn't really care about having that final shot of the person finishing first place. Someone's assigned to do that, and they just, that's their job. They do that. Maybe I've, got the shot of the start line, or I've got like a middle part of the workout, or like at the Capitol last year, they were running on the bridge, and I hoofed my camera with like a 200 to 600 lens all through downtown Madison, set it up on a tripod, and literally just got them running by as they ran on the bridge. I didn't get to see the epic finish at the Capitol. I didn't get any of those shots, but my shots were just as important because they helped to tell
Oh,
the
sure.
story. And that's what I think, everyone needs to remember when you're part of a team. Your part may not be the glamorous part, but it's a very important part to help
Mhm.
tell a complete story. And everyone can't always be the finish line person, but I don't mind that. Like, I look at the final product and it's like I had a part in making
Yep,
that, and that's
for
important
sure.
to me.
Joyce, she says 100% of my new clients are from client referrals, and I mean, yeah, pretty much, right? Like it works that way for you too. When you
Absolutely.
move to Blue Ridge,
Mhm.
um, you start finding jobs quick, and it was mostly from client referrals.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I kind of remembered how I got started in Tampa, and I joined an affiliate in Blue Ridge and started taking photos for them in the affiliate. And CrossFit's like such a melting pot of a community wherever you're at, of everybody from all walks of life. And
Now that we're
you know,
talking about that, you can also touch base on how you left Florida and moved to Georgia.
oh, that's
Since we're already
exactly,
talking, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So, and
yeah,
that's true. That's a very good like, dude. I I I respect you so much from this. So I really want you to talk about it and let everybody know, like, the story behind.
yeah. That's great. That's what I was kind of thinking and getting into, but that
Yeah.
helps. So I was becoming somewhat established with clients and some corporate work, and then I was collaborating with a lot of people, like some of the guys I've mentioned before, Rob and DJ from their jobs, and we were kind of creating a little team there. But I had wanted to move to Blue Ridge, Georgia, like in North Georgia in the mountains. It's a small town, and we vacation there a lot. And part of our, you know, part of like a dream that me and my wife had was that when I retired, that we would buy a place up there and move. And when I left working in law enforcement, so 2 years after retirement, I was getting some traction and probably working as much in the video and photo world there in Tampa that I was, just like I had a full time job again. And I remember at one point she's like, "Hey, when are we going to do this? We want to move. So, uh, she was right. That was something that we always wanted to do. And I was like, well, just let's do it. So we sold our house there, moved up here. I basically gave away all my clients, all the competitions that I had there, and just started over. And I started the same way in Blue Ridge as I did in Tampa. That's the same. I went to my affiliate and I, started taking photos for them and just the classes. And, that, like I was saying before, the melting pot of people that are in a CrossFit gym from all walks of life and all employee real estate agents, just by chance. A lot of the high-end real estate agents that did the luxury listings all went to my gym. And so that started snowballing. I had never done a real estate video before I moved to Blue Ridge, Georgia. And I was so busy doing those there. And I go back now and do
Yeah.
them for them for the luxury listings. I found I really enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
Real estate videos. They're a lot of fun.
I was fortunate to see your whole transition from moving there to being like very scared to. I mean, I remember talking on the phone. You were like, "Dude, I don't know what to do. Like, I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna have to join the gym. Like, I want to join the gym, maybe make some connections there." But you were, I mean, if you think about it, from being established in one place to moving to somewhere completely different, it can be super scary. And I remember you being scared of.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I got
More
very
like more
discouraged
like what?
sometimes.
Yes, I was gonna say, kind of like discouraged of like, what am I gonna do now? Like, how am I? Like, it might take me another 2 years again to
Yeah.
set a name.
Well,
But,
I
um
think it would have taken longer, but I knew a little bit more on how
yeah,
to do stuff because I had made so many mistakes in those when I first started. At least I didn't remake those mistakes. So I think I
absolutely.
was able to get traction a little faster.
Yeah, and for everybody listening that's, wanting to do this and they're in a CrossFit gym, that is such a good spot to meet people and, like, have connections. I had Richard Bloomer in one of my, early episodes of the podcast, and he was saying that he started doing this because he joined a gym, and then, he started, like, taking photos and videos of people there. And I said something like, "Yeah, a lot of my clients are from the gym." And he said, "Dude, all my clients,
Yeah.
I found them at the gym." And dude, I mean, it's true. I have had so many opportunities just because of being at the gym at the right moment, meeting the right people. And at the same time, people that do CrossFit, if you think about it, are people that are, I don't know, I don't even know how to explain it, but it's people that care about health. People care, like, they're very like-minded of people. Everybody's like very community, very like-minded.
Hmm.
So most likely, if you get to talk to them and you find that, like, that connection, and they're a business owner or something, like, you don't even have to, like, pitch them something. It'll be kind of like, "Hey, you 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 make some videos, right? You take some photos, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." I mean,
Yeah.
I do it. "Hey, yeah, I have a business. If you can, like, send me a quote for this, that," and then that's how it starts, and that's pretty much how it got started too, just at the gym.
Yeah. I mean,
It's a
it's
good
amazing
spot.
what you can do with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just being
Real
genuine and
connections is
honest.
great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We have Charlotte here. She says, "Frank's a professional, respected, and kind, good dude." And you see
Charlotte's
that
awesome.
that's another thing. Like, just being just being like that. Like, you see, you have Charlotte. We have Jeannie here too in the comments. Being respected and professional, that can also bring you opportunities, not by, like, word of mouth, but, like, if, for example, like, you would have moved to Pensacola here, for example. Like, if I need somebody, I already know, like, "Oh, Frank just moved here. I'm gonna I'm gonna get him the opportunities. Like, I'm gonna get him more involved in, like, any projects that I have." So just being respected, like, all over the industry, like, you can move anywhere and you'll have people that know who you are. They know, like, how good you are as a team worker, and you'll get opportunities from there too. Jeannie says, "Frank nails it when it comes about a team. You're selfless. Your job is to tell a story, and the story is full circle and requires you all to work along or work together. Frank is absolute asset to any team."
I appreciate that, Jeannie. Thank you.
And the man Toby, he says, "Frank is
Toby.
the best." Dude, I
Love
enjoy
working
working
with
with
him.
Toby at the
Me
games.
too. I like Toby a lot.
He's another. You see, like, that's another dude. Like, that's another one that was very professional. Uh, Whatever Scott said, he
Yeah.
he did it. he always had a good attitude even during the long days. Um, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
great
he's
dude.
exactly. I think he gets it, and you see him having so
He
much
gets
success. I mean, he gets it. Like he knows that's exactly what you do. I think there's some people that it just takes longer to get it, and that's okay. You know, I think
yeah,
people in general are inherently good, and they're all trying to do the right thing. That's one thing that I think helps to keep a good attitude. And the people make mistakes sometimes, but I think everybody's got good intentions with everything they're doing out there. That's at least the attitude I take in with any team I go on. Everybody's trying their best.
yeah, absolutely. And at the same time, like it's almost tough to like I don't like to talk bad about anybody, especially at like if we're talking about CrossFit competitions because it's so high stress and fast
Yeah,
paced that I feel like sometimes some people can be like, they just don't deal with the pressure very well and they just say something they shouldn't have or do
sure.
something. So that's one of the things. And I've seen some people in the I mean, of course, I'm not gonna mention any names,
Mhm.
but that kind of were like that at some point and they're completely different now. And it's
Yeah,
probably because they understood like, oh, that might have been a mistake or not might have that was a mistake. Now I have to, be a different person on the floor.
yeah, I agree. I think the tough thing is, it's it takes a lot longer to develop a good reputation as someone that's an asset to a team and like that than it does to like tear it down. One thing you do to somebody,
Yeah.
one time
They'll remember that forever.
in the heat of the moment, that's what you become. That's what you're remembered as. No one remembers all the good stuff that you do. So I always try and remember that with anything I do. Like, don't react. Sometimes
Yeah.
just take your time. I mean, we're all humans, and it's stressful. You haven't slept in 3 or 4 days at one of these events, and I think everyone needs to remember that and be nice to each other too. And that's what I meant before saying I think everybody has good intentions, but sometimes we get tired and emotions get the best of us. But I think for the
Absolutely.
most part, everyone understands that that's in this business.
Absolutely. What made you choose going more into like the sports side of the industry?
Well, it was a sort of a natural progression. Just sort of let things happen. I enjoyed. I think because when I went to CrossFit, it changed my life. Where I lost 100 pounds and just made so many great friends through that. It just was sort of a natural thing, and that was where I started working. Taking pictures and affiliate. It just sort of happened that way, and I enjoy it. I enjoy the sport, but I mean, I really didn't care. I just was doing whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I just enjoyed the technical side and filming and telling stories is what I really like doing.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I mean I have a similar. At first, when I first got started, I never liked to say, "Oh, my the industry I focus on is sports." But at this point, I'm kind of like, I mean, it's most of the things that I do is in sports. Like I don't really shoot weddings anymore, or at least I try not to.
Hmm.
and and like all the commercial stuff is kind of like still there, but I just I feel like at this point it like people know me more as a somebody who shoots sports
Yeah,
and I always wanted to be kind of like, oh, like I like to be well rounded in a lot of like different industries, but I feel like once you find like something you really like, it's good just to focus on that, right?
yeah,
But I still do other stuff just to keep it fun. Kind of, I mean, you
absolutely.
you still you do the other stuff too. Well, now that you're
Yeah,
full time with Mayhem, it's a little harder, but you
yeah,
still play with other
yeah. I
projects that
still do the real estate stuff, and occasionally I'll get invited on other projects with guys from Tampa that I still know, and they have bigger projects, and they need another person.
yeah.
I'll go do those things with them.
Frank, what would you tell somebody that's listening right now and they are, I mean, I wouldn't say old, but older than most of the people that start filmmaking, and they're listening and they're kind of motivated because you started this career after being
Mhm.
in another career for 26 years. What would you tell them like to just to get started? Like what will be like your best advice?
To an older person or just anybody?
Let's focus on like somebody that already had a career in something and it's kind of like a late passion they found in life.
Mhm. So I would say to someone, who was in my age group or whatever that was trying to get into this, to obviously, be ready for long, long days, especially if you're going to get into this particular space, into CrossFit. But more important than that is, there's a lot of young people in this space that are very talented and you can learn from. So that's something that I've always tried to do, not be stubborn. I think sometimes people who are a bit older or set in their ways in a way that like they know how to do it or they have an idea of doing things. And I think you can still learn. I learn a lot from you. I learn a lot from Bennett and Ben and Scott and these guys that are 20 plus years younger from me, guys that we meet in the media room, we sit and talk. So I would just say be ready to work hard and be open-minded and listen. Don't let the fact that you're older than somebody or anything like that make you stubborn and set in your ways. Like really be open-minded
Yeah, I love
and
that
be a team
because
player. Be a team player is the big thing.
yeah, um, that I feel like that's a really good advice because of course you're like more more about life than any of us, right? Any of the people that work with you in Mayhem. Um, but at the same time, like as you said, like you have to be open minded to learn and to be like, okay, yes, I know more in 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 everything that comes to life and everything, but I can still learn from other people. And
Absolutely.
I use the same mindset when I meet new people that I know they're not as well established. I mean, I wouldn't say well established, but they haven't done it for as long. But it's crazy how you can always learn little
Hmm.
things from people. Even people that just got started, they might know something that you don't know because they're once you get started, you have that first year that you just want to learn, right? And you watch YouTube videos, you ask people, and you get so much information that I feel like the more you do, you kind of like stop or not stop, but the learning curve kind of decreases. It slows down. Like you're not always seeking to learn. You're kind of just like, or at least that's how I feel, kind of like working from job to job, and it kind of like I feel like I haven't been learning as much as I did my first year. So somebody that's just getting started, they're getting so much information and talking to people like that, dude. You get some tips that you're like, wait, what? You can do what? Yeah, if
Yeah.
you do that, it's incredible. And something that I always keep in mind is I was in Vermont not too long ago, and Matt was talking to an athlete, and he said always listen to what people say because out of 8 things that somebody says, the first thing you might be like, oh, that's dumb. Second thing, like, I already know that. Third thing, yeah, I already know that too. But one out of 8, one thing that you're gonna be like, wait a second. And that's when you get the most out of a conversation, when you're willing to listen, willing to learn from people that even that they don't know as much as you, but they always have something they're gonna find very valuable. And that's why he says like every time he talks to somebody, he listens, gathers all the information. There's always something that to this day he still like remembers from those conversations. And I think that's very important, especially
Yeah.
in our industry, because there's so much information out there and so many things to learn and you can't just be like, "Oh, I already know it all." Like I'm not gonna
Right.
listen to Carlos. He's been doing it for 5 years. I've been doing it for 20.
Yeah.
Like,
That's exactly what I was trying to say. Like,
yeah,
everybody can offer something, even if it's their first competition, the first time they've shot anything. I listen. They might have a really good idea because they don't do things the way everybody else does because they don't know.
yeah,
That's one of the things I try and do. I look at where everybody's at and I'm like, well, they're all standing here doing the same shot. I'm going to go over there and do something different. And sometimes it's a fail. I'll get over there. I'm like, oh, they were all over there because that's way better.
yeah,
But you never know unless you try.
exactly. And that's how you learn when you fail. You
Hmm.
do when you make that mistake. You're like, it won't happen again.
Yeah. Like, whoops, that
Oops,
wasn't good.
dude. Gosh, yeah, I'm not gonna talk about it, but yeah, I've made some mistakes that I'm like.
Yeah.
Luckily, it's nothing like that. It can't be like fixed, but like that you can say rookie mistakes.
Right.
I wanted to ask you about the transition from, of course, you work. Wait a second. I'm getting kind of sick, so I need to
Okay.
pause it every once in a while. Anyways, transition from being full time. You were full time from, you said 2019, in, like when you started.
Yeah. Well, I retired from,
Yeah. So 2019 through 2023 that you joined Mayhem. What was that decision like? Like, was it tough for you to be like, from being pretty much the owner of your business, like you're the boss,
Mhm.
to being like, hey, I'm gonna step back, but I want to get something different from this situation, and you join a team.
Yeah. So, you know, it was a tough decision. Probably not really coming to work here because I had worked with Scott and the whole team from Mayhem, Ben and Bennett, everybody here at the games last year, and then a few other events with them that I had done, and really enjoyed working with them. They were a great group of people, and I always knew if the opportunity ever presented itself to work with a team full time, that would probably be the people that I would take the leap and do it with. Uh, and then the opportunity came up, I did it. So the hardest part for me probably was like, and this is still like an ongoing process because I just started here in February of this year. It was like the relocating to Cookeville because I had just less than a year before relocated from Tampa to North Georgia to Blue Ridge. And I had been there 10 months and I got this opportunity here in Cookeville. So that's probably was the most difficult thing. But again, life's an adventure. You got to just try stuff sometimes. And
Yeah,
I spent 26 years in a very, very structured profession where things, regimented how you did it. So part of the enjoyment for me now is just having this freedom. Like, all right, let's do it. Let's try it. Rent a place there and figure it out.
absolutely. I love that.
It's just never too late. That's what I like it.
June asks if your wife ever gives you good idea. You know what? Even your wife even gives me good ideas when I send you videos.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I don't have any feedback, but June says that she might like she thinks that part was like too fast or she didn't like that shot. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take that advice.
That's the secret. So she's revealing the secret I wasn't going to say, but anything that you've ever seen of mine, and probably a few things you've seen of Carlos's that are really
Yeah,
good. She's like one of the critics that usually gets
absolutely.
to see the preview of things
Yeah.
and gives really good advice a lot of times on what we should cut out. Like, oh, that stayed on there too long, and
Yeah. No,
I,
I'm telling you, I take the advice every time.
yeah, it's funny. I actually talked to Scott here about that, and I like having someone who's not like in this industry to sound stuff off of, to send it to, and because it, and I'm sure anybody that's watching this that's a creator, especially a videographer or anything, you get those like epic looking shots with a cool sun flare that like your exposure was great technically, and you linger too long on that because you're in love with it as a creator of like how cool it looked. And my wife will look at it and she's like, why is it so long? Like, that's way too long. You should have, like, 1 second would have been long enough. But I was like, oh, it's such a cool shot. I let it linger for 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And she's ruthless with that, but in a good way. Like, it always makes it better.
Yeah, I have a couple friends that I send all my projects to before I submit it to clients, and you're one of them. Um, it's just
So
because
is she. You just don't know
yeah, yeah.
it.
I feel like it's always good to have like another set of eyes just looking at the project because sometimes you're so focused on like, oh, I want this to look like this that you kind of lose like what's the story about, and a friend can help you like, hey, like this this might not work as like you were
Yeah.
thinking. So it's good. Jenny has a good question here. She says there's a component too many sports spaces that are seen from both athletes, coaches, creators that is mental health. Since it's mental health month, do you have any advice you can give to creators on ways to help cope during difficult times of the highs and lows of being a creative?
So that's a really good question. Jenny's always got the good hard stuff. But
Yeah.
um, I just say, I mean, that a lot of times like things are ups and downs all the time. So yeah, well, sometimes things are bad, but they're always going to be better. And I don't know. I always say like the sweet's never as sweet without the sour. You gotta have sometimes the bad times, and it makes the good times even better. If things were always good, you kind of get numb to it. So sure, there's going to be times where the work's coming in constantly and you're doing well. That's just the life of a freelancer.
Yeah.
And then there's times where nobody's calling you and you can't get anything, and any proposal you give anybody, they ghost you. But it's just the ebbs and flows of doing this. And I think once you get comfortable with that and realize it, it's okay. I mean, that's just how
Mhm.
things go. It's not always going to be, everything's not always up, 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 up. Sometimes you got to take a little break. I think
Absolutely.
nature causes that and helps you actually.
Yeah. I posted something yesterday that kind of talks about I mean, it kind of talks about mental health, and
Mhm.
it's just my own personal experience with just every once in a while, just feeling I wouldn't say fully burnt out, but like lonely sometimes. Just traveling a lot from here there, like and on the outside it looks awesome because you're posting like, oh, I just did a photo shoot with Rich, Katie Ledecky, this that, but what happens in between, like you never talk about that, like
Right.
you know what I mean. And and something I found is that a lot of us have very similar like struggles when it comes to that, because you're by yourself a lot of the time, you're doing a lot of editing, you have timelines, and we really don't post about it. So something
Mhm.
that really cool is that when I posted that yesterday, I got a bunch of DMs, people just sharing their you know own personal experience with me, feeling very that it kind of like it resonated with them. And it's cool to see other people, because when I see other people I look up to and they post about it, they post about like sometimes their struggles of like, hey, like even somebody that's very well established, they still struggle with why am I doing this, like what am I gonna do next, like this person is so much better than me, why I'm not getting this opportunity that I've always wanted, stuff like that. And I think as creatives we have, I mean, we're artists, and I feel like just people are more into that side of like creativity. We're a little more, I don't even know how to say, like emotional when it comes to like
Mhm.
little dude, I don't even know how to explain it, but I understand what I'm trying to say.
I
So
know what you mean.
it hits us a little harder when it comes to even when I'm telling somebody's story and that kind of like resonates with me, I can I can sense some sort of like connection when it's weird when I'm editing, and I feel like like that kind of like resonate, even it's a completely different industry, but that feels like I still I can still I think you know what I'm trying to say, it's
Yeah,
kind
I
of
mean, we get, like, emotionally invested in our
exactly
work and
that's
everything.
that's exactly what I was trying to say. We get very emotionally invested into the projects, and I mean, it's hard sometimes. And one of the reasons why I love doing this, because it it helps me a lot to, obviously, like it's cool to talk to other people, to talk to my friends like you, and meet other creators, and talk about different industries. But it helps me a lot to learn about other creators journeys.
Mhm.
Be like, oh, like they went through similar struggles than other people in the comments, and then you get comments from people like, oh, it was so awesome to hear Frank because I went through something similar, and I'm glad that there's still you know some hope for me to make it because I was in a similar situation. And after every episode, it makes me feel so much better, just because of, I feel like I absorb so much energy from other people, and I also like learn a lot, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, that's 100%, I agree with that, and, me being older, I feel like I absorb a lot of energy from you young guys, like, I enjoy being around you guys, and it helps keep me young, keep me in perspective with things.
Yeah.
It's
In other words, what I was trying to say is that I feel like it would be very, I mean, I wouldn't say good, but it'll be an advantage for everybody in the industry if we can talk about mental health a little more,
Mhm.
just because nobody has like this perfect life that we all put on Instagram, right? So
Right.
um I encourage everybody to, at least if you don't want to talk about it like publicly on social media, just reach out to people, reach out to friends, send me a DM. Jeannie is really good. I mean, I talk to Jeannie every time I'm like, you know, she understands everybody. Kind of like
Yeah,
she gets a lot of the like what we go through. So it's always good to send, talk to people and be open, be vulnerable about what you're feeling at that moment. Because dude, if you keep it too close inside you, like that's when you really start losing passion for this, and you start feeling that burnout.
absolutely. Yeah, it's everybody puts like I'm not big on Instagram or social media, I don't do a lot on there, I'm not good at it, but you get a lot of people that do give sort of it's a facade, like, if you believe that's really how people's lives are.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of downtime. We talk about that. We're sitting at home and you're editing and there's a lot more to it than just
Absolutely.
the
And
impromptu photo shoot in the pit.
it's hard to talk about it too. Like I still don't feel comfortable talking about it. Like I was just trying to explain something. I couldn't like find the right words to like explain it just because it's something that we are not used to doing.
Mhm.
But it made me feel a lot better after I posted that yesterday just because of the response of people kind of like, dude, I feel the same thing. Or people are like, hey, I'm just getting started in the industry and I'm going through like a lot of self-doubt. Like I don't know if I can make it. And just having people more established being like, hey, you know, we we all struggle very hard at the beginning. We
Yeah,
all had our self-doubts. And even, I mean, I've met people that have shot high-end production stuff and they're still, so much self-doubt that in my mind I'm like, dude, are you serious? Like, you have the dream job. And that it goes back to what I posted, like everything looks like the dream job.
sure.
But it's like once you are in that position, that's when you know exactly like what you had to go through to get there
Mhm.
and what you're feeling right now. Same thing with famous musicians, famous artists. Like, oh yeah, you see Justin Bieber. Wow, like how many people are like, oh, I wish I was Justin Bieber. Like he has the dream job. He's a famous musician. He, you know, tours the
Well,
world. And then you actually hear Justin Bieber talk about it. And he never had a childhood. He was famous since he was 12. He was never able to go to movies with his friends, to parties with his friends. Like he has a lot of mental health issue stuff. And that's when you like nobody knows what it takes to get there.
mhm.
Only the person that's on that position.
Yeah, I think you talk about dream jobs, and we all have those kind of dream jobs, but I don't really think it exists. It's almost like a unicorn because once you're doing the job, you're always going to have like a bad day, or there's going to be things that annoy you. So, everyone shows like you're having this dream job,
Yep.
but it's still a job in the end, and there's going to be good and bad days, even on your dream jobs, and everything seems
Absolutely.
ideal. So it's just do what you love and enjoy it and realize there's going to be good days and there's going to be bad days. I mean, that's just kind of how I look at things.
Yeah.
And
And think about this. Also as creators, we always want to create new things, do new things, right? Like
sure,
that's kind of like what we do. So even you landing your dream gig, you're always like, what's next?
right.
Right? Because or at least that's how I feel like most of us are. Because we're always like, okay, cool, I did that, but what's next? While other people are like, it blows my mind. I wish I was in your position. Like I
Sure.
wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Well, I think it's important, like for me, and this is just my mentality. It doesn't necessarily, I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I think I mentioned it earlier how I don't think I've ever shot anything good. I've never made a good video. I've never taken a good photo, and I'm never satisfied. Like I'm always trying to achieve perfection. And they may not be, I don't know if that's mentally healthy, but it's just sort of the way I am. And
Yeah.
it works for me that I'm always trying to get better and trying to achieve perfection. And I don't I don't feel like I ever have. I mean, I have taken a good photo here or there probably, and I've
You always you
I've had
always
a
say that.
good
It's funny.
I've had a good clip or something. We were editing some footage the other day, and Ben brought one up, and he's, "Oh, look at this! This is my favorite clip." And I'm like, "Oh, that is pretty good." I said, "Who did that?" He's like, "You did." And I'm like, "Oh, I guess I did do a good clip there." But for the
You
most part, I'm always trying to get that, perfect.
Yeah, that's funny. You always every time I talk to Bennett about it, I'm like, how's Frank doing? We kind of like because I mean you've worked with Bennett
Sure.
before you so we know like how you always talk about like, yeah, I'm not the best at this, but every once in a while, I'm like, Frank, get some
That's the
self-confidence,
way I
bro.
tell myself.
You're really good at what you do.
I have confidence, believe it or not, in what I do, and I know I'm going to
Yep.
get it right. But I guess I'm my own worst critic, and I think we all are
Okay,
in
that's
this
yeah.
space. And like I feel like everything I've done is not good enough, like always. But I know, like for a client or for things that I do, that yes, it's good. Like
I
it's
guess that
good what I've done.
helps us motivation too. It's like you're
Yeah,
never fully complacent of like what you've done. There's always something you can do better.
yeah. I don't want to make the mistake of ever being cocky and think that I know how to do stuff or I've good. So
Mhm.
I think that's just a game I play with myself that I'm like, no, it's not good enough yet. It's not good. And yeah, I actually probably recently have started seeing, some of my work, and I'll see other people's work, and I'm like, I belong. I belong here in the mix with everybody when I see my stuff, but I still don't think it's as good as anybody else's. But it's
Yeah.
I do recognize that I belong. Like I can do this.
Dude, I love when other creators post like their experience when they first got started in the industry.
Hmm.
And it's very cool because you get people that right now are, you know, well respected and they're really good. And I mean, we're in 2023 and they post stuff like, back in 2020, I got my first opportunity. I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just asking a bunch of people, sending DMs, blah, blah, that asking questions. How do I do this and that? And 3 years later, I mean, you're already in, in a very well respected spot. And again, just posting stuff like that just helps people are getting just started to be like, it took this person 3 years of hard work to get there. Like I can do it too. Like
Yeah,
I'm not right now that person that's sending DMs, bothering people, or I think that they think they're bothering people with, and in reality, most of us are willing to give advice, and yeah, it just helps. Yeah, right. It helps
and
people understand like, hey, it's possible. Like it's possible to get to that point. Just stick with it and gotta
yeah,
gotta
and
make those sacrifices.
I think something I would tell some younger people starting out too is be patient. Like you say 3 years. I feel like 3 years is very fast. Like I feel like I've been doing this
Well,
three
that's
and a
what I'm
half,
saying.
almost 4 years.
It's
I'm very lucky and got a lot of lucky opportunities, like lucky breaks to get
yeah,
here. But I mean, 3 years is nothing. Like that's
it's nothing.
I'm still learning. I barely know what I'm doing, and only because I've invested so much time in learning the technical side of stuff. I think it advanced me a little bit, but 3 years is nothing. I'm just really lucky that I met the right people and got opportunities, and then seizing those opportunities when you get them,
Yeah,
and being a hardworking guy, like we
yeah.
talked about earlier.
I'm always conflicted about people saying I'm lucky because I feel like to get to the point that you are right now, it really doesn't take too much luck. I mean, it's yeah, it's like great opportunities, and you're fortunate to get those opportunities. But in reality, you created that luck. You created that world, right? Like it's not like, oh, I'm lucky that I'm working at this awesome place. In reality, like you made those sacrifices. You took the risk. You found a passion that you always wanted to do, and you work hard to get there. So I understand like people saying, oh, I'm lucky to be here, but every time on the pod somebody says that, I'm like, you really are not lucky that you created your own world, you created your own destiny. Same thing as we get if we get too comfortable where we are right now. We're like, I don't need to learn anything. I already got my clients. Dude, in a year or two, what's gonna happen? Like they're gonna be like, this dude hasn't learned anything. So
Right.
you get
I,
those opportunities, you can lose them quick.
I see what you're saying, but I mean, I just try and be realistic. Part of it is, meeting the right people. But then, like you said, I guess it isn't luck because,
But
if
you
I
put
was a,
yourself in that situation to meet those people.
yeah, like, I mean, I met Anthony, then I met you. And then because of you, I met Bennett, then I meet Scott. But I guess at any point, so I consider I was just the right place, the right time meeting everyone. But I guess if I'd have been a jerk when I met you, the chain would have stopped right there.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I was lucky, but at the same time, you seize the opportunity by just being a good dude
Yep,
and working hard. I guess that's part of it.
for sure. Charles McCoy, aka the Black Rambo, he says, it's always an up and down emotion being a creative. It's really nice to have people you can talk to about it, and it helps express those feelings out loud and not feel judged for going through it. Yeah, for sure.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, because in reality, nobody's gonna understand. Like nobody outside of the creative world will understand like what you're going through. Like if I can talk to my mom about it, and she'll be like, oh, give me advice, but she doesn't get it, right? If I talk
Right.
to you or Charles or Jeannie or Adam that's on the chat right now, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
Talking about Adam, by the way, first he says, "Looking forward working with you at the games." Adam, looking
Absolutely.
forward to
That
you
was
too.
awesome.
And then he says, "As creators, we have to define what good looks like instead of comparing to others. Or shooters will get amazing shots, but if I meet my own definition of good, I feel content with my work."
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, exactly, like, that's dude, I think it was maybe last episode somebody was talking about comparison being the thief of joy, but it's as you said, like, art is subjective, right? So we all have our own definition of good, and at the end of the day, like as you said, like you just have to be happy with what you create, what you're doing, the effort that you put, and at the end of the day, like what happens after, it's just factors that you cannot control. But the things that you can control is like how much effort I'm gonna put into this project, how much research I'm gonna do into this project,
Mhm.
and that's like the things that you can control. What happens after that, like if you're happy, like it really doesn't matter because you put everything you can.
Absolutely. That reminds me of
What,
something else when you talk
what's
about that.
happening
Go
what's
ahead.
happening with this chat? We got a bunch of Nikon shooters. What's going on? We have
Uh,
Jeannie, Anthony,
do you
Charles.
need like a? We got to get a.
Jeannie
We
doesn't
got to have
even
someone
answer
that can
my
block these
messages
people.
anymore when I send her like the potato videos on
Yeah.
Nike. And she knows that I'm always joking. By the way, I see a bunch of people watching live. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe right now. All right, Frank, let's keep talking.
All right, brother. Yeah, we
uh,
were talking something that you. I remember what you were saying about having everything together. Like you were just talking about it, like having what you can control and can't control. That was what you
yeah.
were saying.
Mhm.
So, I mean, this is a little bit off topic, maybe shifting topics, but one of the things like that frustrated me with working with some other creatives, because creatives tend to be a little bit more whimsical and like thinking outside the box. I'm trying to say that if you know what I mean, like
Yep.
emotional artists are different. And I think that's where I kind of bridge that gap being I may not be as creative as some people, but I'm super organized. And like another piece of advice I'd give everybody is, especially if you're working on anything commercial where you have other people, like have your stuff together, like have your batteries charged. I know it's so simple, but like, the things you can't control, like when we get to an event where the pit is, you can't control what angles you can get, but I can control that my batteries are charged, my cards are ready, so I don't like lose everything. I don't know where I was going with that, but there was
No,
something
it
you said
makes sense.
earlier that
It's
reminded me of
things
it.
things that you can
But
control
the
and
things that are in your control, you
your
definitely,
control.
like
Yeah,
gear and equipment wise, need to always be ready with that. Like have it organized. You aren't like spending 15 minutes trying to find a USB cable and now you're missing stuff because your batteries are all dead and you don't know where the charger is. That's
yeah,
a
for
little
sure.
thing I do different than, at least I feel like it's different sometimes.
Yeah.
You're pretty
Um.
good about it.
Uh, I mean, I can always get better. I feel like
I mean,
I've learned.
how many times did you lose your room key last year at the games?
I lost your charger too.
And my room key after you lost yours 3 times.
Yeah, sometimes I'm not the most organized. But you know what they say? They say that people are really creative. They're not very organized.
That's what I was getting at. Like,
Like I'm glad my office you can only see this
yeah.
because the rest is it's not very organized right now. I've been just dude. I need to. I mean, you've been to my
Oh
office.
yeah.
You said
Let's see down there.
no, no, no. Yeah. What's next for you, Frank?
Well, working here at Mayhem. We got the games coming up, so I'm looking forward to that. It's gonna be my second year shooting it, so I'm still new to that and learning it. Enjoyed the semifinals, and then I think after that we're going to Leadville with Rich for a mountain bike race in
Yeah,
Colorado.
yeah. How's working with such a big company full time? Like, um, have you? Because I feel like out of everybody there, you probably have the most outside of the industry experience.
Mhm.
Most of them have only worked in the sports industry. How does it feel just to dive like full time into that? Like, have you learned new stuff, or
Oh yeah, I've learned a lot. I mean, it's different because
and
my
also working with athletes like Rich? Like, how does that feel?
yeah. Well, it's really good. Like I mean, him in particular, he's just such a down to earth guy. It's just I feel like just such a good dude, like just regular guy to talk to. He doesn't. It's not like, oh, there's Rich. He would probably think you were crazy if you treated him like that. He's just very normal. All the athletes here have been so good to work with. It's really good people. It was something that struck me, and I came home and told my wife this after the games last year. I remember on that Sunday after the games were over, and we were at the campers there. Everybody's taking pictures and sort of celebrating, and I was like, man, they're such good people. Like they treated you, just like you were, like once you're on the team or you're a friend, like you're part of the family. And it was just really nice, like the way that they treated you. Like that was one of the things that attracted me here to Mayhem was, a lot of places they talk a big game and they have their whole, their taglines or whatever. Like with here, it's the faith and family, fitness and service. They live it. Like it's real. Like the way they treat each other and treat you, it's real. And that was what really attracted me to come here.
Yeah, it's true. They're very, yeah, it's like a big family.
Yeah,
Really.
it's like hard to explain and
Mhm.
to anybody, but I can just say like the hype is real. They really treat each other good, and like I've been welcomed in here, like I've been here forever by everybody.
Absolutely. I think one of the takeaways of working with big clients, big names in the industry is like when you get to know them as a person, you realize like, oh, this is a normal dude that was really good at, you know, the sport that he did. And now he's obviously famous, but it's just a normal guy that you can have a normal conversation with. And that
Yeah,
also makes you kind of like realize like, we'll have that our human side. It's just it's the way that a lot of the athletes, I'm not talking about rich specifically, or I'm just talking about overall like very, very
mhm,
famous athletes. The way
yeah,
that people perceive them, it's completely different as like how they are in person, just because I mean, sometimes it's hard just to, in interviews and, people running around asking you for like signatures and stuff. Like it just for them, it's really hard to just be themselves. And they're always gonna
yeah,
disappoint people. I always give the example. I was at the Arnold, and I was doing Rob Kearney's YouTube channel, and so I had to follow him like vlogging all the time. And I'm telling you, when somebody's like a nice dude that loves his fan base, Rob Kearney, dude, like incredible. Like I'm telling you, he'll take a lot of time to say hello to all his fans, sign this, that, and I'm talking that there was, I mean, hundreds of people surrounding him, and it's like 4 o'clock. His next event is at like 6. He needs to go warm up. So he's talking to people, blah, blah, blah. And then you have, at some point, you have to go, right? And you
mhm,
have to be like, people approach you, you have to be like, hey, sorry, I can't take a photo. And that's a tough thing about it. You were just nice to thousands of people, and then you're going to break the heart of like two people, and they're going to be like, oh, this dude is a dick. Like, what the
yeah,
heck? He didn't want to take a photo with me. And that's tough, dude. I mean, I don't experience that, but I can only imagine like just being that emotionally invested into being really good to your fans and giving back to your community, and then because of something out of your control, you're having to say no to people, and then that person's gonna go back at you like, oh, dude is terrible, terrible person, he didn't want to take a
right.
photo with me.
Yeah, it's
So
kind of like what I said earlier. Like that one bad thing you do
yeah,
is what
yeah,
carries, it stays with you.
and that's a cool thing. When you get to know them in person, you just realize, like they're just normal people, and that's our job as storytellers, just to tell a story.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody that's listening, you have about 1 minute to ask any questions to Frank, because we're already at the 1 hour 8 minute mark, and I told Frank it's gonna be 1 hour. So right now, he told me he was gonna charge me $10 every minute that we go by.
Yeah,
So right now
I'll invoice them. Keep it going. We got overtime.
well, we're almost at $90. So
Uh,
we gotta make sure that we don't hit that $100 because
I wish.
well, Frank, dude, thank you so much for being on the show. I know we've we've talked so much about doing this in the past, but we never
Sure.
found like the right time.
Yeah.
But hey, dude, I appreciate you not only as a colleague but also as a friend. You're somebody that's it's been by my side since I also got started in the industry. Like we've talked regularly for many many years. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate everything you do, and I'm happy to see you thrive with Mayhem.
Well, thank you for having me, and I appreciate you and all of the people that have been in the comments. That a lot of people that I really respect have been in there, and people that have been good to me. I just enjoy this a lot. So I just want to say thank you for having me, and thanks for everybody that tuned in and watched and participated in this. It's been very
Yeah,
helpful.
and definitely I'm gonna have you back at some point, because I feel like you have so much knowledge that you can just keep, dropping. So definitely I'll have you back. Um,
Absolutely.
where can they find you? At your Instagram's right there at Task Force Media Group.
Yeah, I mean, I post a lot in stories, just stuff, but I don't post a ton on there. But yeah, that's my main Instagram. And that's
Yeah,
also the name of my YouTube channel, but I don't think I've posted a video in a few months.
yep,
Maybe we'll make a video review at some point here as I get gear.
absolutely. But yeah, if you listen to this episode and you enjoyed it, make sure you go to at Task Force Media Group, send him a DM, tell him what was your favorite part of the episode, give him a follow. He always he says he posts on his story. He's not very active, but he's always willing to give you good advice on the DMs. He's active. We send memes all the time and he responds, so I know he's active.
Yeah, I'll help anybody anytime. That's a big thing I like to do. I always want to help people.
Yeah, if you want to find me, you can find me at Bound Media. Just see if you're watching on YouTube. Um, and yeah, make sure you subscribe, like the episode, share with your friends. Again, I get no money out of any of this. So the only thing I ask, if you really like the episode, you feel like other people can benefit from it, send it to other people. I will really appreciate it. Subscribe, follow us on Instagram. You know what to do. Frankie, thank you, bro.
Yeah,
I'll see you in like little, like over a month, huh?
yeah, about a month at the
Awesome.
games. We'll see you, brother.
Yep. Everybody listening, thank you so much. I appreciate everybody in the chat. It was a good chat right here. I see people. Gosh, they're talking trash about Sony. I can't believe it.
Uh,
All right.
we need to end it
All right.
before that gets out of hand.
Yep. Have a good day, Frankie. Have a good day,
All right.
everybody.
See you guys.